What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Retribution on Missed Opportunities. So Brian, let us hear about the map.
Missed Opportunities is the map where we have to clear out terrazine geysers for Stetmann's bots to harvest. Then we have to protect said bots from enemies. If we lose more than one bot on brutal difficulty, we lose the game.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about other difficulty levels. I've only ever played this map on Brutal, but on Brutal, if we lose 2 bots, we're dead. We can only lose 1 bot. But how about the Mutator?
We have 2 mutators today. Void Rifts spawn every 90 seconds starting from 220, and each Void Rift continuously spawns enemies until destroyed. Double-edged deals our forces damage back to them.
So for this one, we need early game firepower, because we either have to snipe the Void Rifts or we have to defend against the Void Rifts until our hero is out. And then double-edged, obviously, we need things that are able to out-heal themselves, or just outright replace themselves, or just sacrifice themselves. So with me today are Tutu and Sticksbender. How are you guys today?
Great.
Doing great.
Alright, so let's begin. Tutu, how are we going to rate the commanders today?
So both of these mutators are actually quite annoying. So I think the bigger one is still going to be the Void Rifts. That will be the main consideration. And then not far behind is Double Edge. Because there are some commanders that are good against Void Rifts, but they're very bad against Double Edged. So both have to kind of be considered.
True.
You also have to consider the idea of we need to be able to deal with double-edged Void Rifts. Because there are, commanders with like, I have a solution to Void Rifts. Does your solution to Void Rifts have more health than a Void Rift?
Well, that's the thing. So, as we have already established, S is for the best commanders, and F are for the worst commanders. Alright, so let's begin. Abathur, where do we put him?
Abathur gets S. He's Void Rift King for a reason.
Void Rift King.
If you are good at Toxic Nest Luring, you can get a Brutalisk by 2 minutes and 20. If you're not good, you can still get 3 before the 8-minute 20 where you get 4 rifts. You should still get 3 Brutalisks by then with like the regular attack waves and escort waves.
Assuming you don't lose them. Okay, so Sticksbender, how about you?
So I feel like Abathur is more A tier purely because of the problem of 1, and if you mess up that nest luring, you're going to die horribly because early game pressure is so very high and your Brutalisk is your only hope. But also, there's the problem of you have to be careful with double-edged with Brutalisks because if the symbiote attacks, then that doesn't harm the Brutalisk. And that's how you want your Brutalisk to do all their damage. So because of double-edged creating even more difficulty and Void Rifts being actually really making, like, you have to be good at Abathur to beat Void Rifts with him, I would say Abathur's only A tier.
The double-edged, I think, is kind of the kicker here. His Brutalisk do have a chance to kind of get themselves killed if they deep tunnel to an area behind enemy lines where the enemies are shooting at them, and they're doing damage to themselves via double edge. So you have to be really good at Abathur. Like, ability-wise, I have no question of putting Abathur in S tier, but the difficulty considering, you have to use your Brutalisks to fight the Void Rifts, and then you have to get Brutalisks relatively quickly.
When you deep tunnel to far rifts, you right click the rift so that even like the Marines or whatever attack, even if they get attacked by those, you lose 500, well, about like 400 HP. Well, you have the symbiote shell too. So you kill the rift and you won't die. And then about 10 seconds later, you'll deep tunnel out. Late game, you have about 4 swarm hosts in random areas. They can cover any rifts that spawn there. You can have biomass, and if you don't, then that doesn't matter. But you can have small groups of 4 swarm hosts in random parts to cover other rifts. So yeah, late game you use swarm hosts too. And A tier is fine.
Alright. So that sounds to me a lot like Get Good. Because you have to be mindful of how long your Brutalists are out there, or else, yeah, like we all mentioned, they will get killed by themselves mostly. And you do have to spread your swarm hosts around. Burrowed, sure, but you still have to spread them in the first place. So A tier is fine. It's not bad. In fact, A is probably one of the higher ones we'll give. Anyway, Alarak, how do we rate him? Sticksbender.
Your mothership was going to hurt itself a lot with double-edged, so that takes away your big thing for Void Rift killing. But on the flip hand, it has 2,000 health, so it actually can kill rifts. So because of that, Alarak's okay at dealing with rifts. Is he okay at dealing with double-edged? No. Alarak is probably the biggest commander where double-edged becomes a considerably harder mutator than Void Rift. And because of just how much his hero unit is useless, pretty much all his units except for the Stalker and the Mothership are useless. I think there's probably going to be worse commanders, so they'll get the F, but I think Alarak E.
Okay, Tutu, how about you?
He's not the worst. He's down there. So Mothership can get rid of one Void Rift, or maybe two if they're near each other. You can use Overcharge on a Warp Prism and get rid of another Rift somewhere. And you can mass Destroyers to help, but Alarak himself is gonna keep dying, or he's gonna eat everything. So he's actually really bad to use for this one. So I give him E. He's one of the 3 commanders I have not tried for this mutation because it's just, he's not gonna do well.
We kind of all agree. Not recommended, actually, unless you're like a crazy person who wants to suffer a lot. So yeah. Anyway, Arcturus.
It's either A or S because the bunkers are safe from double edge. He can't use ESOs, but he can drop bunkers right next to any rifts once you get like the initial vision.
Fog of War.
Yeah. And even if you don't, you can drop like 3 troopers, arm them, and if they die, they will blow up the rift. As long as the explosions are close enough, because 1 bomb does 250 to structures. 2 or 3 troopers will be enough to kill a rift. And you can mass bunkers to defend the bot. So S, I guess.
How about
I'll just
pushing?
give S for pushing. Have a lot of troopers that are armed.
Right. So you're recommending the Merchant of Death prestige here.
Oh yes, and for a lot of these, the prestige really matters. So if you're not P3, he's a lot worse. Okay, so pushing, you just mass a lot of troopers to push forward, and you can use the Dogs of War, but I would save the mandate for bunkers.
How about you, Stickspender?
Yeah, S makes sense, to be honest. You have, by the way, if you're really looking for some kind of AoE that works despite double-edged, obviously there's the Trooper Boom, which I thought that one didn't get the bonus against structure, so it's actually 3 to kill Rift, but maybe I'm wrong. You drop bunkers on Rifts, the bunkers shoot the Rifts, dudes inside of bunkers ignore double-edged. He is good. The only real downside of double-edged is, well, you can't do what you would often do of having a couple battle cruisers to pop Rifts, except you still kind of can, because the battle cruisers have 1,400 health.
So both of you guys agree on S.
I think so, actually.
All right, so we have our first S. I was actually initially thinking B because I usually run out of money when I do this strategy because I kind of overuse my vampires. All right, Artanis. How about Artanis? X-Men.
If you go P3 Artanis, your Archons don't do damage anymore because they fire out their little bloop things. That's 90% of their damage, and the bloop things are actually their own independent unit, which is invulnerable to everything except double-edged damage and has 5 health.
Yeah. Oh, so it won't actually do anything. It will kind of die on its own. That's interesting.
So the Archons themselves still are 5,000 health of Thick Boy, but that's it. They're not going to actually murder waves, ripping them to shreds like they usually would. Other than that, Dragoons don't care about much of anything, so yep. Takes a long time for a Dragoon to kill itself. It has lots of in-combat health shield regeneration. Double-edged turns that into health regeneration, so now your Dragoons are almost buffed by double-edged. Just don't use P3 for once.
All right.
Make Dragoons.
So,
probably P0. So you're pretty good at everything. You're probably B or A tier.
B or A? How do you deal with the far rifts?
B tier probably. Observers are very good units.
Yeah.
Especially since you're not P3, your observers have Guardian Shell, which means you just fly in an area that you think has no detection. If you're wrong and there's detection, you just keep flying because you got 5 seconds of invulnerability.
Okay, so what if there are 3 Void Rifts in far spot? You can Orbital Strike one, you can spawn Dragoons.
Deploy your power field, spawn Dragoons. If 2 of them are close to each other, you deploy your power field, you spawn some Dragoons, they punch one, they walk over, they punch the other one. They have Warp Haste, you should definitely have Warp Haste, which means that when they first get warped in, they run around like crazy people. And yes, that means they shoot harder, which means they might kill themselves, quote unquote, with double-edged, but they, again, have Guardian Shell, so they can just keep firing.
Okay, how about you two?
All right, I guess, we didn't mention this, but one of the hardest things about this one as well is the 820 rifts. They start spawning in far areas, namely the area near the second bonus and the area near the top right behind the last in the last area. Those are 2 very difficult spots to reach. Artanis can get there with observers, and you park observers there and you warp in, or you use orbital strike. You warp in Dragoons or use the 5 orbital strikes to kill rifts that are back there. Dragoons are good. You can, as mentioned at first, they're really good. And I would give him B because his passive also helps your ally. So that's another bonus. Don't use P3.
Don't use P3.
Makes sense. So do we put him in B or A? I'm kind of tempted
The reason I say B is because there's a lot of other commanders where it's like, no, but that guy is an A.
Yeah. Alright, so I think we'll put him in B for now. Dehaka. Where do we put him?
So Dehaka has very good options, but in order to play him well, you have to have
Good.
very good micro. You use P3, so that's already micro intensive.
True.
Then, when you summon a greater primal worm to deal with a wave, you press Q and then you shift click A, so that right after it uses its ability, it will attack instead of attacking the units around it. Because if you don't do that, it will waste time killing the units around it and the rift will live. And you cannot afford to spend more than one worm per rift. You get swarm hosts, those creeper hosts, those are good, and the brothers, they keep killing themselves, so one of his pack leaders is useless. It's like a little pulse cannon. You get one shot and he dies. Doc Run dies. I gave him a C, but if you can use him, like, okay, he can be B.
Okay, how about you?
Honestly, I think the C already feels a little bit generous, but yeah, C. Put him in C.
All right, I was actually surprised that Artanis is over Dehaka this. I don't disagree. Just surprised.
Double-edged exists. Artanis is suddenly better than Dehaka. That's just how it works.
Nice. Anyway, how about Fenix?
Fenix is weird. So, you can still go P2 against double-edged, by the way. Kaldalis becomes a Baneling, and Mojo becomes a Scourge. It's slow, clunky Zagara. Unfortunately, slowing clunky really doesn't work against Void, because the time pressure is really, really intensive before they just start spamming units at you and you die.
It's weird the time pressure in a 30-minute map, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, it seems like no time pressure, yet on the flip side, it's like, no, if that rift lives for 15 seconds, you're in trouble, because void rifts are a silly mutator, honestly. You can also go P3, so that you go with, like, uber fast, like, Talus running in, spell, run, and she can literally cross the map in 10 seconds, so, and then you can actually, like, A-move a blob of adepts, and the other adepts won't really kill themselves, and that works okay. Not great for sniping rifts. And then you have the option of carriers. Completely ignore double-edged.
Yeah.
How are we doing the early rifts? Who knows?
What if you just
my recommendation would probably be P3, start with Mass Adapt, transition into carriers after the second bot wave finishes. Because the second bot wave is the biggest difficulty spike in the base map.
All right. Oh, so where do we put him?
Oh, right. Yes, tier. D or D or something. He's okay against double-edged. He's not so great against rifts when double-edged is involved, because his best anti-rift weapons are countered by double-edged.
So you say D?
C or D.
C or D. How about you two?
Phoenix, regardless of which prestige you use, you have to use Kaldalis and Tal'Darim like lone wolf outlaws. They basically guard an area, and if rifts spawn there, they can take one out. And then for far rifts, you use Observer with Phoenix suit, either one. So you can use one, like Zealot suit can kill one, and then Dragoon suit kill another one or something. Main army is probably gonna be Adepts early on, but that's not good against certain enemy comps. So if you're gonna wait till carriers, then you're gonna have like no power in the early game, and you're gonna need an ally to carry you. We're not being carried, we're hard carrying. So Phoenix is gonna have a hard time, but not that bad. I don't recommend P3 because Kaldalis now has 480 total health instead of 960, which means that he can't take out the first two rifts by himself.
Ah, right.
That's true.
So where do we put him?
C.
C. I was actually thinking, but like you and Sticksbender, I will put him in D. We'll put him in C. That's fine. All right.
By the way, I would make one note. You said you don't recommend P3 because Kaldalis kills himself on a rift. That's true, but he kills himself on that rift, and that gives you a 100% refund on the cost of Kaldalis. So you can just send one Kaldalis to the first rift, and then one Kaldalis to the second rift, and now he has the full avenging protocol thing from killing himself on the rift. So he runs really, really fast to get to that rift.
Early game, you don't have time to make two dudes. Later on, that does work well.
Just make a second gateway because your gates are cheap, or you just chrono boost.
Honestly, you're gonna die.
You can have two zealots. You have two zealots by 2 minutes.
Try it. I can barely get Kaldalis out by maybe it's my build is bad.
If once you get your gateway, you can't start Kaldalis AI research until you get your gateway. And if you chrono boost the gateway, then the second zealot comes out around when the AI research finishes.
You don't take up quick power, or you don't take.
No, you just get zealot bodies out for the first rift pair.
Yeah, okay, that's one way to do it. I probably wouldn't go. I wouldn't recommend one way or the other. You can both use them anyway. On Horner, where do you put him?
On Horner is pretty good, but not super good. Reapers and the Galleons don't do that much damage per shot, so they don't hurt themselves that much. You can with P1, you can drop 2 sets of Magmines put the circle exactly like right over the Void Rift, and then the Void Rift will die. You want to get the fire upgrade as soon as possible so that you can use one Strike Fighter and one Magmine to kill far rifts. Since with Double Edge, the cooldown is not 60 seconds, it's 120. So you want to make sure that you have Strike Fighters for each rift that appears. From my experience so far, I haven't been it yet, but my experience so far is that if you let the trickles like happen even once, you're gonna die.
That makes sense.
Unless you have someone without someone covering. If you have someone covering, yeah, it's pretty good. So I put them in B.
That makes sense. How about you?
One note for why we said like the cooldown is doubled with Double Edge. The reason is because normally it's a 60-second cooldown. If the Strike Fighter dies, it's a 120-second cooldown, and Double Edge means the Strike Fighter kills itself. So that's why the cooldown is doubled. I guess I can see B. You can deal with Far Rift. I think that Double Edge is actually going to be a little bit more painful than is given credit for, but I'd say I'd be leaning more towards C to be, but B is okay.
I'm also actually leaning toward B because a lot of commanders here can do fine with closers, but like there's a premium, I think, on guys who can reach the far rifts, and Han and Horner is one of those guys. And Magmites also are pretty good against waves in general, so I'm actually thinking B. You know what? Let's put him in B. We don't have strong objections either way. All right, how about Karax? Where do we put him? Six Bender.
So you have endless supplies of orbital strikes to kill rifts, as long as you can get vision. An endless supply of top bar to kill waves without having to worry about double-edged. Your buildings are more durability focused than DPS focused, so they don't actually kill themselves that quickly if double-edged. And if you litter them around the map, they kill rifts for you. You have observers. They don't have guardian shell, so you have to actually kind of know where you're sending them for them to not die. But it's not that bad. It's just you kind of have to be a little bit more knowledgeable than Artanis, a little less margin for error, but all in all, yeah, he's just kind of S tier because he can just top bar everything, rifts, waves, everything, and ignore double-edged the whole time because top bar.
Space
lasers. Oh yeah, and you can also use Purifier Beam to get vision of far rift.
True. How about you?
So Karax, I recommend Mirages over Observers. Because they fly faster and they have more HP and they get auto healed if they get tickled. But yeah, so you can use Mirages either way though, like you can choose either one. Same reasons. So blast down rifts with orbital strike, solar lance for waves, and then lots of cannons defending the areas. Purifier beam clears the next area so that you can move probes in. And once you have it, you don't use that many monoliths. You can have a few, but you don't want too many because they'll kill themselves. So S.
We all say
gets
S.
An S.
I also say S because Karax is kind of strong at all points in the game as long as you have Spirit. By the way, we haven't even talked about Prestiges yet, or rather, if the rankings would change without Prestige. I think we'll say that for after every commanders would put in. Let's move on. Kerrigan, where do we put him?
Kerrigan, F tier, because she kills himself and her good units against Double Edge are Lings and Brood Lords. Lings are too weak. Brood Lords take too long. So she can't really do anything.
Two things.
Just suffers.
She's not good. She's not good against the waves. She's not good against the rifts.
Two things.
Because of Double Edge.
I'm laughing because I remember this guy who ranked Kerrigan in F tier, and I got so mad that he ranked Kerrigan in F tier. But now I kind of have to agree because Kerrigan kills herself too much. Oh, and the other thing is he said Kerrigan kills himself. Whoa. Anyway, Stixbender, how about you?
Yeah, she sucks. Your Hydralisk actually can kind of work against double-edged. I would recommend you go Hydralisk. But it still sucks. How are you dealing with the first rift? That's a great question. How are you dealing with the first 10 minutes of the game until you get a bunch of worms out for your Hydralisk and a critical mass of them so they don't kill themselves on the wave? That's an amazing question.
Get a Karax ally who will do everything for you.
Yeah. So in conclusion, suffering.
Anyway.
That is the formal conclusion, is suffering.
Well, let's move on. Nova, where do we put him?
Alright. Nova. So, double-edged is a problem. Surprisingly, not quite as bad as Kerrigan, because at least you have spider mines and a good top bar. Still pretty bad.
I agree.
Yeah, she's just kind of like probably E tier.
Have you tried mass ravens and airstrikes and spider mines?
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Ravens, airstrikes, maybe some spider mines. The problem is your early game is going to be tight,
True.
and then how do you get to Far Rifts? Do you have any plan for that? Because, like, really, she doesn't have very many options to get to Far Rifts.
Gotta hide on her
She's
ally.
not going to get to Far
Easy.
Rifts. Double-edged is a huge pain. It's incredibly inhibiting.
Do you guys see now why I'm saying, like, not you guys, the viewers. Do you guys see why I'm saying that there's a premium on the commanders who can reach the Far Rift? Anyway, do you say E? How about you, Tutu?
I have her in E as well. Because she's at least a little, she can contribute a little. If you use P3, you can like clear the map for your ally. You can reach far rifts. You can use your airstrikes and a sabotage drone to like kill far rifts or whatever. So you're kind of helping, but you're probably not going to do much in terms of defending the bots. You can clear ahead and clear far rifts without too much problem, but you're not going to help too much against the bots.
Still not as
maybe
bad
a
as
few
Kerrigan.
months. Yeah, so. Just like Alarak, you're kind of helpful, but not very.
At least with E, you can see, I'm helping! Anyway, Raynor, where do we put him?
Raynor is interesting. P1 is actually good, but not... Like, Raynor's best anti-rift strategy is using Banshees, and you can't use them here. You normally would park like 2 Banshees in different areas, snipe rifts that are close by, but you can't do that. So it's either mass spider mines for defense against waves, and that's helping, or you mass P1 infantry and you drop like groups of like 8 in certain areas. Hyperion and Duskwings also help a lot though for far rifts. So they're okay. I give them a D, C or D. They're not terrible, but they like not that easy to do, not that easy to use.
Okay, how about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's just like, double-edged forces you into Marines and Spider Mines. Marines and Spider Mines have a hard time dealing with Rift. You're going to be running around like a madman with Marines everywhere. Your top bar is going to struggle to actually do anything because of double-edged when your top bar is supposed to be how you deal with the Rift. And, like, D, because, like, your top bar still can kill Rifts. You can help. And you can help more appreciably than an Alarak or a Nova. That's about it.
So D.
That's my thoughts. Yeah, D.
Alright, we're kind of unanimous. I was actually also... Anyway, Statboy, where do we put him? Six-bender.
Stetmann. So, Zerglings and Gary. That is kind of your plan. Zerglings, Banelings, and Gary. Now, Gary, Egorb on P2 Super Gary
Will kill himself.
will kill himself, except Yesent, because early waves have this thing that the entire combined hit point total of the wave is less than 2,000 health. So, as a result, you can actually Egorb small waves because the combined hit point total of the wave is less health than Gary has. That's just how chonky Gary is. So you can still Egorb small waves. His basic attack, he shouldn't kill himself too much because Best Oil from Zerglings and also Steadilite Overcharge makes him very, very tanky. And just throw Length and Banes at things. You have great map vision and control because of your big putting Steadilites everywhere. That gives you total map control. Use P2. I know P1 sounds great and all for more Steadilites, but no! You want a Gary who has enough health to Egorb the wave without dying from it.
The first wave, that is.
The first wave, the second, the whole first bot, Gary can just handle it. It's just not enough hit points for him to care. The total hit point total of the enemies. You can just trade out health bar for enemy kills. You're probably looking at like B or something, or maybe A, but probably B tier, because he doesn't have the greatest ways of getting to the far rifts, but he can get vision of them, and he can very quickly move around the map to get to close-ish rifts where it's like, okay, this rift isn't far. It's just on the literal opposite side of the map, and I have to sprint all the way over there.
Okay,
He has
but
a solution for that.
why not invest?
Yeah, you can also make some infestors as time goes on. You're going to have a ton of gas when you're making your Zerglings. Zerglings, infestors, Zerglings, Banelings, infestors. One of those 2 options.
I was actually thinking, if you can go infestors, even if the rifts spawn very
You
far...
can outrift the rifts.
Yeah, you can kind of out-rift the rifts. You'll eventually intercept all the trickle as it approaches you, and then you'll eventually clear the map, so you can just push through. But yeah, where do you put him again? B?
B or A.
All right.
I'd probably put him in A.
How about you, Tutu?
Stetmann is great as an assistant, not really as the main. Because, well, Gary's auto attack while he moves is actually detrimental because, like, you're trying to run away to save him and he ends up killing himself sometimes. You want to get away from the fight, but he's, like, still shooting as he's running away. I tried infestors, and if you use infestors, you're going to have the purple light on and you're not healing. So if it's kind of it's hard to balance that. Whereas if you just use regular, you also have more energy. If you use the infestors, your masteries will be 17-13 for the second column, second set. So you have less healing from the green, and you're gonna turn on the green less often. And I think the roaches kill themselves really fast because I remember they kill themselves unless you can before you get like a huge blob of infestors, they will end up like not doing much to help.
The reason that the problem is that not the roaches kill themselves very fast, that the roaches do nothing. The Ravagers are all the power, and they have an AoE spell, so they one-shot themselves with that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would note, I would not do the mastery split for the second set when I'm using Infestors. I just go full energy field so I can get the energy regeneration.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
I would strongly recommend that for Infestors.
Where do you put him?
He's a great assistant, so B. Keeping the green light on helps your ally a lot, and Gary can generate his own field to fly to far rifts quickly and drop Stedalites there to teleport there in the future if necessary.
I'm also thinking because, while I can see cases for him to be an A, you have to be kind of really good at Stet Boy.
Yeah.
To keep on top of your macro, your control, your rift sniping, Stedalites, to actually have A tier Stetmann play. But I think B sounds fairer. Similar to Abathur. So Abathur, I can definitely see Abathur being an S, but the amount of control required puts him down just because of the control required. So, do we all agree on B?
Yeah, sure. Well, that's what I put it. So
yeah, B. Put him in B. A was overshooting his abilities.
Okay, Stukov. Where do we put him?
Oh, Stukov, man, his early game is so bad, and Void Rifts are all about early game. The Apocalypse will kill itself like after a few shots. It has like 2,000 life, but it still like doesn't last the full minute. It's gonna take a while to ramp up. He also has a hard time dealing with far rifts. He can push forward from the front, but his usual method of dealing with rifts is using P1 Banshees, same as Raynor. You use Banshees to deal with rifts, but you can't do that with Double Edge. So I put him in D.
Remember, guys, once again, I said there's a premium in being able to reach the far rifts on this kind of... Anyway, Sticksbender, how about you?
The way to reach far rifts with Stukov is you use siege tanks and you just deep tunnel them over, and the actual Baneling attack dude doesn't damage the tank. So basically, Stukov here is going to want to go P1 and mass tank, maybe P3, so he has, bunkers for the automated pushing to, actually push into bases a bit easier and give him anti-air, but even then it would still be very tank heavy. You're gonna make a lot of tanks, is the moral of the story. Their tentacle attack will kill them quite quickly, because that actually damages the tank itself, but the launching Volatile Infested only damages the Volatile Infested itself, and it's a Baneling, so it doesn't care.
How do you deal with the first 4 rifts?
You die! That's the problem. It's basically like Stukov, his dealing with far rifts is okay. His dealing with double-edged is okay. His dealing with the first 2 rifts is one of the worst in the game.
All right. So
even if you're P1, you have to make a bunker.
Yeah, he's literally one of the worst in the game at dealing with the first 2 rifts.
D for dreadful.
E.
You say
D.
E. C?
No, D. D.
All right. D for dreadful. All right, there we go.
Yes.
D for
a disappointment.
Disappoint.
D for dead guy.
Dead guy. Anyway, Swann, where do we put him?
Yeah, Swann. No, sorry. Swann is... So, against double-edged, Swann is interesting. And by interesting, I mean you have a laser drill. That's it. All your units kill themselves in, no time flat. Your turrets all kill themselves very quickly, except blaster abilities can kind of live sort of long enough to kill a little bit, and by a little bit, we mean they can kill a rift. You're building health mastery. So you'll want to scatter blaster abilities around areas you've cleared so that you can have rifts killing themselves that way. But the biggest thing is, you are a laser drill, and you are a fleet of flying factories. And some Hercules for tactical jump to reach far rifts. But mostly you're a fleet of flying factories, and you can even sometimes, since you're not spending your money on units or turrets or anything, just say, oh, a far rift? Don't worry, I'll just send 20 factories. They can't shoot them all down. Also, the laser will kill them while they're trying to shoot down the factories.
By the way, guys, we are recommending Sticksbender at least.
E1.
And I are recommending heavy weapon special because the laser drill will shoot faster and will deal splash damage and will slow down enemies. So it's actually pretty good, just damaging.
So that's the other important thing is use P1 because if you use the ability on the laser drill, the top bar, pulse cannon, or concentrated beam, that will damage the drill itself and it'll instantly one-shot itself and die. Whereas if you just have the AoE attack, yes, it will deal enough DPS to slowly kill itself. Unless you just have a group hug squad of SCVs and they just hug the laser drill and give it all the emotional support it needs.
Remember,
to
guys.
solo the mission with just a laser drill and nothing else. So that's basically Swann's entire thing, is just a laser drill and nothing else. And it actually works surprisingly well, because you can just pop rifts reasonably well. You can murder waves, because that's just what the P1 specializes at. This map is mostly wave clear. Probably B.
Yeah, remember, guys, Swann's repair is free, so you can actually just group hug the heavy weapon specialist laser drill, and you'll eventually kill stuff without having the laser drill die. So you say B. How about you?
The strategies are all the same. So as what you guys have said, I would still make turrets. Like, you still make turrets, but once an area is cleared, you don't salvage all of them. You just have enough spread about, so you can salvage a few of them. The ones that are very close to each other, you still want them spread out. And you also need to do a lot of manual laser targeting. Like, when a rift spawns far away, you want to just right click the rift and let the rift get drilled to death before you switch targets. You might even shift click the rifts. But yeah, I put him in A.
Hey, actually,
He is really good.
I can honestly get behind the A tier. I mean, there was a sliver of seriousness when I joked about S tier Swann.
I actually don't have
it's
much
really
of a disagreement. With the full laser drill build master, do you get the laser drill out in time for the first rift?
Yes.
It's at there's 30 seconds of time. So it comes out 250. First rifts come at 220.
Oh, I thought it came out at 2:30.
So your
I thought it was only
strategy-
10 second time.
Your strategy as Swann is to get like a couple blaster billies on the ramps, so you can defend until the laser drill is ready, and then you fly the factory. All right, so
Well, you fly the factory beforehand towards an area that might have a rift.
true.
And then when the drill's online, you just shoot it. You're already there.
Okay, guys, I can see cases for both A and B. Where do you put them? A or B?
You know, your actual sheer killing power is going to lack heavily, because you are just a laser drill and basically nothing else. So I feel like it's wrong to put him... Honestly, I would put him in B and then move Artanis to A, is what I feel like. Because it's like, he's above Han, Horner, and Stetmann. He's not above Artanis.
How about you? Do you agree with that?
Not really, just because I've been able to solo with Swann, not with Artanis. So
Okay, he's above Artanis too then.
that's why Swann is. It's not that hard. Like,
Did you pick the enemy
compared
comp
to
though?
Artanis.
Did you pick the enemy
For
comp,
both
though?
of them, I pick yes. I pick it for Artanis too, and I still can't do it.
Ah, right. Are you swayed by that, Stickspender?
A tier Swann! Woo!
I don't actually have a strong opinion either way, but I just like seeing Swann succeed. He's like the guy who always finishes last in class. And you just want to see him do well, whether or not he actually deserves it. You just want to see him do well. So that's my reason for putting him in A, mostly.
I think he actually deserves it here. He actually is an A tier.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But this is probably heavily prestige dependent, though. If you don't have prestigious, it's gonna be different.
You're done.
We'll talk.
If you don't have P1, you're done, man.
We'll talk about it later. Tychus, where do you put him?
Tychus, man.
Tychus, man.
If he's like more useful than Alarak and Nova, but he has a hard time reaching far rifts. You can use Lone Wolf, but you have to keep an eye on everyone at the same time. Make sure they're not going overboard with their fighting. It is doable, but not very fun. And if you don't pay attention for 1 second, Tychus gets himself killed. If you only focus on bot defense, that could work, because you get like Nikara's healing, which is much better than Rattlesnake's. And then you don't do anything about far rifts. You just let your ally handle it. But that would mean that he's not very helpful then. But he's more helpful than Alarak Nova, so he's D.
How about you, Stickspender?
Yeah, he feels more like a Fenix Dehaka tier than a Raynor Stukov tier to me, so I'd say C. But basically the same reasoning. It's just I think that he's actually slightly more helpful than Tutu gives him credit for, despite those struggles.
If you try to do both, he's gonna suffer. If you do only like
That's
defending
the same
bots,
thing
I
as
think
Dehaka and Fenix.
Yeah, okay.
Let me say.
I can see that.
You can see that? Okay, let's do it. We can both see that. How about Vorazun?
Welcome back to Shadow Fury ranting. But seriously, like it's literally just like while casting Shadow Fury, you ignore double-edged. Dark Templar are mobile, invisible units with a teleport and a recall on death, and your Dark Pylons can summon your entire army anywhere with vision at any time, and each of them has a separate 1 minute cooldown, which gives Vorazun, by a landslide, the most access to global teleports of any commander ever. Like, for army teleports, not individual unit. For individual unit, the Brutalist win. And then Vorazun's second. Like, it's literally just... She has the potential...
Nah, Kerrigan's second for army teleport. Come on.
Oh, yeah, sorry, of course. Right. Sorry. But...
He's an F tier.
But I forgot about Kerrigan because she's so bad against double-edged that I just forgot she existed.
Yeah, but we still gotta be fair.
But
anyway,
the
continue.
point is, Vorazun is like, if you know how to control her units, she has the potential to be S tier. Is she gonna be S tier for most people? Probably not.
Alright, so how do you deal with the far rifts as Vorazun?
You just kind of like blink past problems. With Dark Templar.
So you have like two
it's a
separate
little
control groups.
Yeah, basically your big solution is, or you just have completely uncontrolled group Dark Templar. You just say, oh, there's a rift. Warp in 4 Dark Templar. Go get it. So the awkward thing is some of those rifts have detection in the way, and it's going to be like, it's actually going to require map knowledge and timing to blink past that detection. You can do it, but again, like Vorazun, it's all there for her to be amazingly good.
Yeah, but
the whole toolkit is there. You just have to know how to use it. Just like Abathur.
Well, it's not just know how to use it. It's like also have the attention span to keep on top of everything. Because I know now...
Just like Abathur.
Yeah, I know now to use Shadow Fury manually, but like it's pretty hard to keep on top of everything. It is an RTS after all. You have to keep on top of so much stuff. But so where do you put him though?
B tier, I was saying.
All right, how about you two?
All that for a B?
It's like, she has it all. Do I trust anyone will do all that?
Boom roasted!
No way! Not a chance! I can't do half that.
Sick burn.
But on paper, she's an S tier.
That's a lot. That's...
How about you two? Where do you put him?
This one requires a lot of planning. So this one was my most recent success story. And I did not turn off... I'm not going to turn off Shadow Fury. I'm just letting them fight. Yeah. So 3 Dark Templar, that's the magic number to snipe a rift. So you have I had like 2 small groups of 3 Dark Templar. And at the 8:20 time stop, the 8-minute time stop, I moved 2 groups, one to the far left, one to the top right. And then I kept them there. And the rest of my Dark Templar and Shadow Guards, they're just in one group, and they're defending the second wave of bots. And then I make Corsairs later, and then every time stop afterwards is used to clear one of the bases. So the 12-minute one clears the 3rd area, the 16-minute one clears the 4th area, the 20-minute one clears the 5th area. And then the last time stop is for the last wave. So every time stop is used for something, some sort of clearing. And then
24-minute time stop on. Did I miss that one?
Oh, I didn't use it because I was already maxed out and in control of the map.
Fair enough.
Where do you put him?
B. I put him in B, but I can see an A.
It's like we both agree. It's like Vorazun has all the tools, but it's not easy.
It's very difficult. I mean, it's not a matter of knowing to do that.
She has the toolkit to trounce this mutation, just utterly pound it into the ground.
But you unironically need to have like at least like diamond league level of control to be able to actually do it.
There's one more thing, which is that if the enemy has early air units, Corsairs kind of slow to come out, and like they're not that strong until you have a large number of them. So if the enemy is a ground comp, then yeah, it's pretty easy. But if it's air, the early game might be a little difficult until you get enough Corsairs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you viewers have been listening to all the discussion so far, all of these commanders pretty much have one thing in common. Get good, because there's a lot of control required to be able to come out on top of this mutation. If you're going to hard carry, you're going to need a lot of different control groups and pay attention to the map and be on top of your macro to be able to keep the Void Ups under control. Even if you have the S tier commanders, you will still need to be on top of them at least map awareness so that you can actually keep ahead of the Void Ups. So the commanders alone won't save you, even if you have the S tier. You need to have at least a sense of when the Void Ups spawn and look for them and snipe them before they get out of hand. Because as Brian mentioned earlier, they will continuously spawn units until we are dead. So we have to actually destroy them before they spawn too many. Anyway, so Vorazun is in B.
one thing. You said that all these commanders have the comp team of get good. No. There's one commander who's the exception.
Artanis.
Kerrigan is not a matter of get good. She's a matter of suffer and die and have
Right.
excruciating pain in every aspect of your life eternally.
Yeah, Toxic Spill was right. Anyway, let's move on. Zagara, 2/2.
Zagara is another S tier candidate with P3 only. We'll talk about prestigious later, but with P3 you can deep tunnel to far rifts. Don't Baneling Barrage the rift. You summon the hunter killers to kill them, and then you spread creep and use Zergling Banelings to stop everything else.
What would you use Zerglings with double edge? Don't they kill themselves?
But you have evasion, so that helps.
Right.
I mean, you can also mass spines, but like you have to spend your minerals on something.
How about you, Stickspender? What do you?
Can I also point out, remember, double-edged, the units do regenerate the health back of all the damage they deal to themselves. It's just that it's a rate that's too slow for most units, so it's just like it doesn't apply that much. But it's 8 hit points per second, no matter what the size of the unit.
By the way,
for small units like Zerglings, the Zergling is just going to heal equal to its DPS pretty much. It does more than 8 DPS, but with evasion, the Zergling is probably going to be healing faster than it damages itself with double-edged. So I think Zergling could just attack eternally with evasion mastery, with never dying with double-edged.
You can have 2 of them. Okay, so where do you put Zagara?
Yeah, she has a deep tunnel option, which means which doesn't need vision. She's got Banelings, which do splash damage against double-edged without any penalty. Oh my goodness, she's got Zerglings that don't care about double-edged. She's got a decent early game. She's probably A tier or B tier.
A tier, B tier? I was actually thinking S as well. 2/2 actually swayed me.
S?
Yeah. Because Banelings don't care about either mutator.
Yeah, she's just easier Abathur, isn't she? Okay, put her in S. Yeah, she's just easier Abathur.
All right.
All right, S tier Zagara, yay!
Zagara, there we go. Anyway, Zeratul, where do we put him? Sixbender.
Let's see. Double-edged is suffering. Void Rifts are weird. The first set of Void Rifts is kind of annoying to deal with, except you can just use Legendary Legion for that. You have to use Telbrus Legion, though, because otherwise if you use the Void Wraith, then the units are just going to pop out of the rift and say, hey, look, Void Wraiths. Well, we don't shoot up, so we're going to go nibble all your probes to death. Double-edged is going to make Zeratul hero unit a lot worse, and that's a problem because that's how you're supposed to deal with Far Rift. Your only real remaining option is to use Prisms. That admittedly can still get around really fast, and Stalkers, which
Triple blink?
have to they triple blink. Yeah, it's like Shadow Fury with Vorazun. It's like if you do it manually, it can work. If they start shooting their auto attacks, they kill themselves quite swiftly. Also, you don't get to deal splash damage that much. It's interesting because here's the thing: Zeratul's hero unit has this weird thing because Zeratul's hero unit has phasing armor. Every time he takes damage, every 5 seconds, when he takes damage, he becomes invulnerable for half a second. And for some reason, when he cleaves a wave, that counts as separate damages for double-edged. So and it's important, you have to make sure you wait, you don't let him take any damage for 5 seconds. You blink into an army, you cleave, and you blink out. You have a half-second time limit for that. And if you do that, you can cleave the entire wave and get only the double-edged damage from hitting one enemy, which means you have splash damage, which is great. Having splash damage against double-edged is on a premium.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't risk it.
That's a big deal. Do that. That'll help your wave clear a lot. Voiders are still going to be annoying as all heck to deal with, especially if they spawn far apart from each other. It's honestly going to be almost less threatening for them to spawn distant rifts and more like they're close rifts, except they're on opposite ends of the map. Zeratul probably goes and C with them.
All that for C.
That was basically the procedure of how do you not kill yourself immediately. It's like all that for C, because all that to explain that wasn't explaining the strengths of Zeratul. That was explaining the drawbacks and problems with Zeratul. Aside from the cleave thing,
You forgot the 2 other strategies that I think are even easier, which is cannons and shield guards.
oh
Shield guards don't kill themselves that fast.
I forgot.
And you can project cannons to kill far rifts.
Forget Stalkers. Reject
Stalkers
Stalker,
work.
embrace Sentry.
Stalkers
I
work.
forgot about that.
Stalkers
work. Sentries are better. I completely forgot about mass shield
Do
guards.
does the reflective barrier enable double edge?
Nope.
Oh, so you can more.
Nope. Just reject Stalker, embrace Sentry, mass Sentry.
Yeah, I tried that. I got to like the 3rd set and then GG. Zeratul can take 1 rift because he has like 600 total HP. I don't recommend P2 because P2 is a slow late game power, and this one requires early game. The cost is actually like noticeable early, and you need the early game power. One more thing is that if you're using teleport to find artifacts, you can't teleport to far rifts.
Yes,
unless you have a warp prism.
That is a big catch. Yes.
So I would not use P2 because you don't need your teleports to. Yeah. So for various reasons, and also the I think the Void Ray cooldown is fine. By the time the trick
I've
goes
had
to reach your base,
suffering with Void Ray call down against Rifts, but maybe that's just me. I found it worked.
Yeah, for the first rifts, if they trick by the time they trickle to your base, you should have like 2 sentries.
Will you have them in time?
Yeah, yeah.
If you rush them.
If you rush them, you
Alright.
build like a little bit earlier. And with all that said, I also put Zeratul in C.
All that for C.
He's not good. He's just this is what you do to not die and be useless.
Yeah, that's basically to kind of agree. Anyway, so here's the tier list with the best prestiges. Let's go back and see where these guys would actually be without prestiges, if you don't have them yet. So Arcturus, would prestiges affect them? Yeah, or different.
If you're not P3, you might as well go down to like D.
No.
Well, not that bad. Not that bad.
No,
They still
your
have
troopers are just good. They don't care about double-edged. You can still call bunkers from the sky. I think
That's
that
true.
non-P3 is A tier instead of S tier. So it's still a demotion. But I think
Definitely
that it's
enough.
only down to A. I think you can still
kinda see
do
that.
all the things that Manx does that handles
That's
this.
His bunkers are still immune to
Bunkers
double
are
edge.
still immune to double-edged. His
Alright.
bunkers can still pop rifts.
Okay, so Karax, without
Without prestige, just don't pick P2 and you'll be fine.
still S? Without
Honestly, yeah.
Do you think Chrono Wave will kill themselves, the cannons?
That's
Probably.
true. Then you can't cast Chrono Wave. I was thinking with the cannons, all I was thinking was just the passive Chrono Boost would actually be a buff that would just be not bad. And the triple repair speed on the repair beam is great. And you just have to play like you're playing P3 when it comes to Chrono Wave. Don't cast Chrono Wave,
Alright.
or your cannons will instantly delete themselves.
So still S.
P1 is S, P3 is S, P2 is not S. P0 is probably not S.
So more like A?
P2 down in like B.
Alright. So Zagara.
P0 and A. P2B, P0A.
Zagara without
B.
E1's like you can't reach far rifts, so then it's like B-ish,
Oh yeah, P2 is just bad in general because you're making units that aren't suicide units.
yeah. So
and you don't get free suicide units.
so P2 is like E or something?
E2 is like
she's
E.
not that bad. She's not Alarak and Nova bad, but she's
That's
probably
true.
D.
D-ish. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
So
D for
Abathur without prestige is
downgrade.
still A, right? Abathur without prestige is still A.
Abathur, just don't use P3.
Yeah.
I used it. It's fun.
Ah!
Anyway,
Okay,
let's move
but
on.
it's a straight downgrade. Anyways,
That's a downgrade.
Let's move on. Swann without
Swann,
prestige.
if you're not P1, E.
Yeah. What do you think, Tutu?
Better than Kerrigan. That's about it.
What do you think? Tutu?
Yeah. Well, his laser locks on slower. He can use a call down to kill a rift, but then that's what you'll be doing. Then you'll be doing nothing for a while.
Oh well. Artanis without prestige still B, I think.
Well, he's
Just don't use
normally
P3.
without prestige.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
choose
The
P0,
correct
so-
one is to use P0.
Okay.
If you don't use P0, you're only making it harder for yourself. Literally, all 3 of the prestiges are a downgrade for the correct way to play Artanis again.
Hot and Horner without prestige, I think still B, but I think a
Still the
weaker
same.
B. A weaker B because
Yeah.
your Magmines aren't as good.
The Magmines,
That's
you're
about it.
relying on them quite heavily, I think. But yeah, I think I'd put them down to C that bad without the Magmines being
I think
insane.
bottom of B is
But
enough
you'll
for-
bottom of B probably, yeah.
Uh,
Stetmann.
I think still B.
Still
Still
B,
B,
probably
sure.
just use P2.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still B without P2. Just use P2. It's gonna make your life easier.
Vorazun without prestige, still B.
Without P3 is not as good.
Not as good indeed.
But
P3 is just such a huge, strict upgrade for
So
Vorazun.
C without prestige.
No, still B because honestly, she still has the entire toolkit to soulless and be
Yeah, that's-
S if you
that's
just are
what-
that good at it.
That's what I'm thinking. Like she's
Just
still
don't use
B.
P2. P2 is just gonna make your life hurt because
Dehaka-
you're basically only making Dark Templar, so P2 is gonna make your life pain.
Dehaka, Fenix, Tychus, and Zeratul. I think they're all still at the same tier without
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raynor and Stukov. I think all the rest of these guys are still in this. You can still without prestige, you can still mass spider mines.
How bad would P1 be? Yeah, pretty
For which
bad.
one? For which one?
Raynor. For Jimmy.
He's not. I did it. It was alright.
Yeah, it's okay because it's like
It's
actually like
okay.
it's double
No, it's
edged.
actually-
Like it's actually okay.
I think it's good for early because P1 has strong early game, and that's what you need to survive. So
P1's
Helpful.
actually, this is actually a not terrible time for P1 Raynor. Nice. Stukov,
I think it's-
P1,
yeah, I think it's a little-
P3, both good. P0 and P2 are just a strict downgrade for P1 because you're going to play like it's P1 even though you're not P1.
I think
But
still D.
you're still D.
Yeah.
Even with that penalty, you're still D.
The people at the bottom, we don't have to really consider other prestiges because even at their best, they're down there.
They're down there. Yeah.
Alarak without P3, I think is Kerrigan tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he still
You
has
still have
overcharge.
you still have
You
overcharge.
still have overcharge.
That's about it. But
That's about
but
it. And that's going to
Kerrigan can like
if the
immobilization
first
rate.
two rifts spawn and they're distant from each other and you're not P3, you lose the game. Well, no, your ally deals with them for you.
Yes. So Kerrigan is still,
Kerrigan's only upside is at least I get a bunch of worms, and now I have body blocking and vision simultaneously all over the map to help deal with rifts.
Yeah, so I don't think Alarak will ever be
Okay.
F
No,
tier.
not Kerrigan tier. And nor will Nova, obviously. Like Kerrigan is just
So pretty much without
Kerrigan.
prestige, the only guy who stays in S is Karax.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Karax is the only guy.
the only guy who's in S with P0, yeah.
All right, so
correct.
there it is. So how about ranking? Who's the best among the A? Still Karax.
Wait, the S's you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, Karax. Karax and Zagara then Max.
agree with that too?
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Yeah,
For
I
A,
still think Artanis should have been promoted to A, honestly.
well, we can discuss that after the A's. So who's better between Abathur and Swann?
Abathur.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, with Abathur, you also have Mend, which helps your ally. You can also have Brulisks immediately upon the first Void Rift, so they're even less of a threat. I can see that being a
Great.
thing. So
with Swann, since you're killing one rift at a time, the other like the 2 or 3 are spawning stuff, so you have to deal with it.
So Artanis, do we promote him to A? Is he closer to Abathur and Swann than he is to Han and Horner, Deathboy, and Vorazun? And keep in mind, these three are pretty good.
I'd move Artanis up.
Clearly better than 3.
Yeah.
I don't
Orbital
know.
Strike, Guardian Shield Observers, very good things to have. And he
My
has
concern
an
is-
army. He has an army which you can A move at waves and it wins.
Yeah, but with Double Edge,
On Horror,
it'll definitely
don't have
be weaker.
that. No. With double edged, it's practically stronger. That's the point. That's why Artanis is so good because it's dragoons. For dragoons, double edged is actually double edged. It's as much buff as nerf.
Oh, because you can get your place your armor and you don't max out, so you can
You can get your hit points back. Literally, of all 4 of those, the one who can best A move at waves and his army will just crush the wave by A moving is Artanis.
You agree, T2? What do you think?
I see that. Yeah. I feel like that would be true for any of the other ones too. There are some any comps that like even though your dragoons will heal, they'll get crushed by the enemy like regularly.
Yeah.
But that's true for
You
Hot.
know what unit
That's
that
true
is?
for the others.
The Zergling. That's it. Just the Zergling. And keep in mind, you can, as long as you aren't P3, you still have Guardian Shell, which means you can still use Spinlot as Protoss Banelings to deal with Zerglings. The only thing that actually threatens your Dragoons. Honestly, that's the only comps that threaten your Dragoons are Zergling comps. That's it. Nothing else threatens them.
All right, let's put him in A. Look how disappointed.
Basically,
Look how disappointed Swann is though. Look at Artanis like, ugh, he doesn't belong. Abathur.
stop being racist. We've done it. The first 3 tiers have one of each race.
and
Stetmann is a Zerg.
Stetmann.
That is sir.
So we have one of each race on each tier until B.
Until C. Stetmann is Zerg.
C? No, we have 4 commanders on C.
Yeah. I was thinking of until as in it stops at. But anyway, the point is
Right. Anyway.
Yeah.
So between the Bs, who's the best?
that's an
Vorazun.
awkward one. Vorazun, yeah, Vorazun. Like Vorazun is better than the A's if executed perfectly.
I can
But-
see that.
yeah,
I can
agreed.
see that's been a thing. The other thing is, like I keep mentioning before, there's a premium placed on ability to reach far rift, and not that the other 2 can't reach it. It's just that with Hot and Horner, it's a single click. You don't have to have a separate control group. Like if I'm recommending this to like Silver Leaguers, I can't tell Silver Leaguers to just have separate control groups of Dark Templar on far corners of the map. I can tell them though to press
Yeah, okay.
Airstrike and then press the Void Rift, and it's gone.
My only concern with Hunter Horner is just literally the fact that it's just like, and then the wave just killed me because double-edged plus a standard attack wave was too much.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that happens a lot.
The Reapers.
Han and Horner, they are really weak in terms of their actual armor.
The Reapers, though,
That has happened.
kind of semi-refund, and they kind of explode at the enemy when they die, so they kind of act like Banelings almost. And they're not expensive. You can kind of almost easily replace them. And with, for example, keep in mind, you can still use Helions with tar bombs. You can still use all those other units. I think they're not. Keep in mind also that we specifically mentioned that this isn't soloing. With an ally, I can see Hot and Horner being really good.
Yeah, I think Hot and Horner are probably the best for with an ally.
I mean, the best for like guys who watch this video, like those who aren't like clearly good at the game.
Yeah. Hot and Horner, Vorazun, Stetmann.
But if you're like Diamond League or above, sure, Vorazun definitely could be an S even. So aside from Hana, who's better between Stetboy and Vorazun? Guessing Vorazun.
If we use the same logic, I would probably put Stet because Stetmann is considerably easier than Vorazun.
I don't know. Whenever I play Stetboy,
of these three, Stetmann can move his army at a wave and not expect to lose.
But regarding dealing with the far rifts, Stetboy has to actually teleport there and then teleport back.
Or he just presses the speedy boost button on Gary, and then Gary go vroom across the map. Because you go to blue zone, you make Gary produce his own zone, and he runs across the map at the speed of light, punches a rift in the face, and it dies.
So we have Highland Horner, then Stetboy, then Vorazun. Yeah, cool. All right, now for C2, who is the best among them?
Dehaka.
Okay, then Tychus or Fenix. I think Fenix actually.
It's toss up between Tychus.
It's hard.
But Zeratul definitely last.
Cannon projections are like they're not permanent deaths.
True. You will still gain value over time. The thing is, will they actually get to do damage before they, deproject?
You have to manually target the rifts. You project like 3 cannons, and then you target the rift.
I mean, at the regular wave.
Oh, the regular waves. Legion and Shield Guards.
Legion and Sentry Blob.
That's actually reasonable. With an ally?
You know what?
I see that working.
I actually see that. Okay, Zeratul second.
Okay, let's put Zeratul second. And then toss up between Fenix and Tychus. And just because Phoenix has glowy eyes, we'll put him there.
Glowy eyes, the rule of glowy eyes.
Alright, so for D...
Raynor's better.
Yeah, I can see that being a thing. Like with Raynor,
because he has spider mines. That's about...
Well, he can...
Early game is more
and his top bar is less instantly deletes itself. Also, well, Stukov has the Alexander that, lumbers around slowly and kills itself because of its fireball moving. Raynor skips all that by just saying, I summon the Hyperion on this rift, and I tactical jump to that rift, and now they're dead.
I think Raynor's better here. Good call. For E...
You can use a last shot Yamato before you die on a rift.
Yeah, true.
Not to mention, Slayers are great here. Alarak is fine once he gets a critical mass of Slayers. He does not care about double edge anymore once he gets enough layers.
Yeah, so that's
no
basically...
supplicant. Don't even use Alarak.
Don't use Alarak. Put him in a corner.
That's basically what...
You literally...
he can be the trickle killer.
The trickle killer.
Yeah, he can be the trickle killer. Exactly.
I can see these two guys.
A massive blob of stalkers is honestly going to do more than Nova's however many ravens she can scrape together.
I want to try
the
this
ravens
now.
can't even Seeker Missile.
Yeah.
Alarak is definitely better than Nova, I would say.
Alright, so let's keep it that way. Alarak and then Nova. And then... who's better between...
Kerrigan is worse than Kerrigan.
Who's Kerrigan? Who's better between Kerrigan and the box of candy?
Box of candies.
Box of candies.
Makes you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, we might just have to just kick Kerrigan off the tier list. She's not worthy.
She's not worthy. She's not even... Alright, guys. So, here it is. It's also already Belcarified. We don't need to Belcarify it because it naturally looks like a Belcar. Which is awesome. Alright guys, that'll do it for the tier list this week. Thank you for watching. Do watch 2-2 and Sticks Better Today or link description. And I will see you guys next time.